Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Lawrence Phillip, aka DJ Random, and today we're gonna be taking a look at the humble little synthesizer that comes with Ableton Live, which is analog. So basically, analog is your basic subtractive synthesizer, and this one actually comes with the Ableton Live suite. And despite its simple appearance, it's actually a quite capable synthesizer. So one of the reasons why I do this video is because a new term has just started at where I teach, which is at SAE Jakarta. Analog is one of the main synth that we'll be using when we get to the sound design part of the course. So let's just get started with this. You can find analog under the instrument, and it's the first one right here because it starts with A. So let's just load it up into our Ableton. So I'm just going to double click this. So let's just take a look at what analog is, okay? Well, analog is basically, it's just a simple 2 oscillator synthesizer. And it has a 2 filter and 2 amp. And well, in reality, you only need 1 amp. So there is a reason why this has 2, which I will talk about it soon. And then it has a LFO. There are 2 LFO available. And of course, this is your global control. So let's take a look at this, okay? This is your first oscillator. And this one has 4 waveform available. So that's your sine. And then your saw, your square. And it's kind of like a random kind of waveform. And then here is your volume control for your oscillator. And then this is your filter assignment. Right now, it's assigned to F1, which is your filter 1. So to change it, you just have to drag it up and down. When you drag it down, it shows here 84, 16. That means that's 84% filter 1, 16% filter 2, etc. You just keep going. So when it's at 46, 54, that means 46% filter 1, 54% filter 2. And if we go all the way to the bottom, it's 100% at filter 2. So that's how you assign the filter, okay? The next thing that we have is an octave here. So here, I'll show you what we can do with this. So this is a middle C. And if I put it 1 octave below, it's going to be playing 1 octave below, -1, 2 octave below, and 3 octave below. And then there's a semitone. So we can make a semitone here. So in case we want to make like a 5th chord or something like that. So we can go with the octave, let's say in the 0, and then we add it to 7 semitone. So that's your 5th, like that, which is quite handy. And then we have the detune. So this is kind of like the send, in case we need to tune it a little bit more detail. So that's your first oscillator. Oscillator 2 is exactly the same. And then we also have a noise oscillator right here. But this one just only have 1 sound, which is a white noise. So in here, it's part right here. That's how to turn it on. And of course, the same thing. This is your volume control. And then this is where you assign the filter. And this is how you change the character of the noise. Okay, now that we have this, let's look into this window right here. So the window right here is corresponding to whichever tab that's being active right now. So let's say we look at this oscillator 1, then you have this, and then this is the noise. The noise doesn't have anything because it has a very limited available option right here. So this has no correlation whatsoever with the noise. You can't even click it. And then this is the oscillator 2. If you notice here, oscillator 1, this one has LFO 1 right here. While in the oscillator 2, this one has LFO 2. Pitch of this can only be affected by LFO 2. While the one on oscillator 1 can only be affected by LFO 1. Okay, if we look at it, this is kind of like your pitch envelope. Pitch envelope. So for an example, let's say I'm playing a middle C. And then if I raise up the pitch envelope initial, that's how you create kind of like laser. You just make it long. Mainly, I use this pitch envelope when I'm designing a drum. And then right here, we have the pitch modulation. So if let's say we turn on this. And then we go here. So that's your pitch modulation right there. Okay, let's turn that off first. Okay, and then the next thing is, let's go to the filter section. The tab here, filter, now this window is corresponding to the filter. In here you have your filter envelope. And this is where you can control the filter envelope, like how much. And oh yeah, before we get too far though, this is one of the great thing about Ableton is like, if you need to know like a lot of this thing, just hover your mouse around here. And right in this window, this info will tell you exactly what those particular thing are for. Let's say right here, we put it in tag. This sets the time it takes for the filter envelope to reach its peak level after a node is depressed. Or in here, envelope, it's 4.0. The slider set how much this filter cutoff frequency will be modulated by the filter envelope. So in here, this is your default one is 4. We can go all the way to 16, or we can go all the way to -16. So for an example, here's what we can do with this, okay? So we create the sum, and then we put this in here. And then let's say we make an envelope that looks like this, which is going to be like a plot. All we have to do is just move it up. So this envelope right here, let's put this on 0 for this envelope right here is basically similar to, let's say we open Massive right here, and then we put right here. So that envelope, that value 0, 4.0, or 16 is basically this value of these. So that's what it is. Okay, so in case you're not familiar with this, but familiar with Massive or Serum, that's basically what these are for. These are, yeah. And then, of course, let's go to the next one. We have the filter. This is how you turn it on and turn it off. And then this is your low pass. So there is several different filter type in here. There's a low pass 12 dB, low pass 24 dB, band pass 6 dB, band pass 12 dB, etc., and so on. There's the format too. If you want to do those talking bassline, kind of like Skrillex style, you can do it with the format filter. And then right here, we have the frequency control, the frequency cutoff, and then we have the resonance, and then this is where you assign the filter same way. Do you want to assign it 100% to filter 2 or 0, so everything's focused only on filter 1? So that's kind of like how you do it. You control it. And then, okay, and then the next thing is the same thing, you have your frequency modulation, and filter 1, you can only be modulated by LFO 1. Same thing if you go to the one next to it. Filter 2 can only be modulated by LFO 2, kind of like similar with the oscillator. And then the next tab that we want to look at is the amp. The amp control the volume, and pan, basically, you only have to control. And then this is the window that corresponds to it. And this is how you control the envelope. And then basically it's the same thing, amp 1, amp 2. And then after that, amp 2 is the same thing. And then we go to the LFO panel. In here you have two LFO 1 and LFO 2. And you only have, you have the rate. And this is how, whether you want to sync it to the tempo or not, right here. And then assigning it will be, oh yeah, and then this is where you re-trigger or not. It depends on how you want it to be. If you want to re-trigger it every time you play it, and then you just activate it. If it's not, just turn it off. And then the next thing is we want to go look at the global panel. In the global panel, you have this. This is actually a quick routing that kind of like help you get started on how you want the routing of this synthesizer to be. I'll get into that after I explain this. So this is your global volume, and then this is a vibrato. And then this is where your unisono detuning, and this is how you control the glide. Okay, so now let's take a look at this. Okay, this is all the there are 4 options for quick routing that you can do. So let's say we go with this one. So if you look at it, like if you look at this, what's going to happen is oscillator 1 will be routed to filter 1, and then it'll be routed to amp 1. And then it's going to go to the global. It's going to be mixed together in the global. And then oscillator 2 routed to filter 2, and then routed to amp 2. And then both of them is going to be mixed together under the global panel. And then in this one, oscillator 1 is routed to filter 1, and then routed to amp 1, while the oscillator 2 is routed to filter 1 too, and then routed to amp 1. On this one, you have two oscillator, both are routed to each of its filter, but they're kind of like going both. So this is probably when you put everything is 50-50 right here, if you can see. Right there, it's 50-50. And then right here is the same thing, where like both of them is being routed to filter 1, and then from filter 1 it's going to be routed to filter 2, and then it's going to be out on amp 2. So this is like kind of like a quick setup on how we can play around with this. And then the next important thing is this BB range. This is your pitch bend range. So right now it's going on 2 semitone. So pitch bend is on your keyboard controller. So let's say I play this. So that goes up 2 semitones. I can move this all the way up to like 1 octave or 12 semitones. So this is really cool if you do a lot of automation. And then another important thing is right here, voices. Right now it sets to 8 voices, so this is polyphonic. Polyphonic means I can play a chord. So let's say I do this. So that's a polyphonic. Right now it sets at 8. We can set it all the way to 32. Or we can set it into a monophonic by selecting this and go to mono. And then now that's only 1 note at a time. I can't play chord. See? And when you start doing monophonic, this is when you can go with the glide. So we can set it glide right here, and then we can go with the time, let's say 60%. Then this is what glide does. See how like the pitch is kind of like sliding between one note to the next. So that's a little bit too much of glide, but we can do it like say right here. So glide is kind of like one of those that you see here a lot in hip hop, let's say like a West Coast hip hop, Dr. Dre style, or trap, where you have just one note lead that kind of like sliding between the previous one to the next one. So this is pretty useful one. And this only works when you set it on monophonic. So let's say for an example, I want to create a kick drum. So I'm gonna go with this setting where I have 2 oscillator all routed to filter 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this and I'm going to turn this on. The only reason it's off is because I turn it off manually. But once I have this on, so what we can do is we can just select our shape, and I'm going to go with the sine, and I'm going to go with the octave. I'm going to go with 1 lower. So if we disable this just so we can hear the oscillator 1. Then this is what we have. Which is nothing, because right now at the moment the filter is set in low pass and the frequency is all the way down in the 30 hertz. So what we want to do is we want to create an envelope for this filter. So let's raise it up. We're gonna go with maybe this is fine, and then maybe we want to control the decay. Okay, now that we have something like this, and then the next thing that we want to do is we can go to the pitch envelope of the oscillator. Remember when I showed you that? So we can go to here to create that transient. And this decay, we can use it to control the tail end of the kick. So if it's something like more like an 808 where it has a long decay, what we do is let's bring this one octave below. So then that's your 808 kick. But let's say we want to make something for like a house music where it's like more tighter. What we can do is we go here. We can go lower maybe. And that's basically your standard kick drum right there. And then, of course, the problem with analog is it doesn't have a built-in FX. So this is where you have to get a little bit creative and putting an insert in here. Let's say you want to make this fat and you use a saturator, and then we just drive it. And then we have to compress it maybe. But that's kind of like how you create a kick drum on analog. That's kind of like the basic way of using analog as a kick drum. And then let's say for the next thing, we want to create something that's more bassy type, you know. So what we can do is, let's say we're going with the 2 oscillator. We're using both saw. And what we're going to do is we're going to go with the same kind of routing right here. Simple one like this. Or we can go something a little bit more fun where we're going with 2 filter. So what we do is we're doing this. So let's reduce this octave. And then we can detune it over here. Just a little tiny bit. So now you have that kind of like fluctuating sound. And then let's go to, what was the kind of routing we have? And then this one would go to filter 1. Okay. So let's go to filter 1. Go all the way down right there. Then maybe you can go. And then after this, we can go to the filter 2 right here, because this is being routed to filter 2 now. And then we can adjust. And we can turn on the unisono and detune it. Okay, if that's not low enough, we can just. So that's a simple bass. And then if we can change this into sine to make it a little bit more thick. And then all this character, we can just adjust it right here. So that's a simple way to do bass. So let's say we want to wobble this. You guys got to remember that this one is being routed through filter 1, and then it's going to go to filter 2 before we go to the amp. So if we want to wobble this, probably the most efficient way is we go with the LFO 2, because and then we want to modulate filter 2, not filter 1. So what we can do is, once we set that up, and then we go here. And then we can actually modulate the resonance too if we want to. So that's basically a pretty basic way of using analog. Hopefully this helps you kind of like get your head around analog, because it's actually a quite simple synthesizer, you know. Just understand this part where like this is how your routing is. because this will help you understand how it goes. At the end of the day, synthesizing is synthesizing. So what you need to do is you need to get familiar with how synthesizer works and what's the basic routing and how they work. Because once you figure that out, once you understand the concept of synthesizing, you can pretty much figure out and be able to design sound from on any synthesizer, because whether that's analog on Ableton, or you're using Massive, or you're using Serum or Spire or Silent One, they might look different and they have different interface at the bottom of it. They all work the same. The most important thing is just get your head around the concept of synthesizing. And then after that, everything is a breeze. Let's say you're familiar with Serum and then now you have to create some new sound on analog. Then all you have to do is maybe just sit, take a look at all the panel and what's available and how the controls and how the interface works. And I guarantee you, within 5 minutes, you figure out how to do it. It all comes down to understanding the basic way of how synthesizer works, okay? I hope this helps kind of like demystifying this really, really simple yet powerful synth. Yeah, if you guys have any question, just fire it up in the comment down below. And if you find this to be helpful, give me a thumbs up. And for more tutorial and music production tips from me, just subscribe to my channel, okay? And thanks for tuning in, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.